Okay, we'll call the policy committee to order, and approval of August 17th, 2023 minutes is first up.
So moved.
Second.
Any changes or deletions or additions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Great. So tonight, for policy for first reading, we have EBBA-3R, Rochester Pediatric Associated Medical Form, which will be deleted. And we have policy JHC, Student Health Services, with minor changes.
So the first one, which on your, just to be clear, on the initial agenda that went out, it was just the letters were wrong, so we corrected that it's corrected in the drive, but just so you know, there was an error on that one. We don't use that form, so that's why we're deleting EBBA-3R. Any questions about that one?
And the Student Health Services, the changes in that?
Yes, those are pretty minor, so again, it's just making sure we have the correct policies that are referenced, as well as a misspelling in the final paragraph that we corrected.
Any questions? So, yes.
Make a motion to send to the full board those two policies for first read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Policies for second reading tonight are policy JFA, determining residency. There are minor changes. Policy JECA-1, residency affidavit, which will be deleted. And policy JFA-1, residency affidavit, which is new. And can we just talk about those as a group first? Anyone have any questions about them? No? Okay, then we have policy KH, public gifts to the schools, which will be deleted, and KH-R, gifts to schools, which will be deleted. And we have KCD, public gifts or donations to schools, which is new.
It's, yeah, so just to clarify, it's KCD, we received an update this week with some revisions to that policy. So I have a handout, I think I just have it, I don't know if you already have this, that outlines the changes that we just received.
So just a procedural question. I
Yes.
think that means KCD would have to go back to first reading since there's updates. Okay.
I'll make the motion to move KCD, public gifts or donations to schools, to, for first reading.
Would JFA-1 have to be as well since it's new?
This is like new since it was already gone through first reading.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing this, as a committee, it has to go back to first reading.
I don't think there was a second, so I'll second that.
So we have a first and a second.
Does everybody understand this will go back to committee for first reading again?
So next month it will be first?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Mrs. Grass, or Chair
Yes.
Grass.
Yes.
I make a motion for the following policies to go to the board for second reading and adoption: JFA, JECA-1, JFA-1, KH, and KH-R as changes and deletion are noted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Next up is public comment. Publicly communicating false statements about people that defame them could subject the speaker to both criminal and civil liability in the state of New Hampshire. In that vein, statements made at public input or at public hearings are not immune from potential consequences for their words. Furthermore, the fact that the public body does not prevent these statements from being made does not excuse or endorse those statements. It just means that the public body, in this case the school board, both recognizes and respects the right to free speech enshrined in the First Amendment of our Constitution. Is there anyone here from the public?
board members. Tabitha Davis, Rochester resident. Tonight, I want to talk about, I'm not sure what policy, Ms. Grassi, maybe you can email me or you will let me know, I don't know. But a couple parents asked me to talk about the lice that's going around in the district between HIPAA, that you guys can't notify parents or anything like that. So HIPAA, I used to be in the medical field, if you let the parents know what grade it's in, it has nothing to do with HIPAA. You're not letting the parents know who it is or what class or anything. You just say 4th grade, there's an outbreak, or 3rd grade, there's an outbreak. If you guys saying it has to do with HIPAA, well then you guys broke the law in HIPAA with COVID, because I got several phone calls when my kids got exposed, literally from the school, from the nurse saying, hey, your son was exposed in this class, keep an eye out, test in a few days, or we got an email about COVID in a school or anything like that. So if you guys can do that with COVID, why can't you do that with lice? There's people that can't afford, the kits, so they have no idea that schools are having the lice unless someone's posting it on Facebook or any type of social media. I didn't know there was an outbreak of lice until I went on the Facebook and someone posted it and I was tagged in it. So hopefully you guys can change the policy on letting family members know in that school, in that grade, or even in the class without letting the parents know who the student is. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? I don't see anyone else. We'll close public comment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We kind of skipped, we skipped
Point
over
of
a
order.
5-year plan.
Oh,
But we also have, a number
I
6 too.
know.
And we have another on the new agenda that went out this afternoon. The agenda was changed, and there is another policy that we're supposed to have a discussion about.
All right.
But the 5-year plan, I think we're all set for that.
The policy committee's in good shape.
Policy committee is ready for Monday's meeting. And Matt?
I was kind of looking at the policy, unfortunately, so are we on other?
Yes, we're on other.
I just wanted to point out that there's new, I don't think it's policy yet, but there's new information out from the New Hampshire School Boards Association regarding student reps to the school board, and that they have different workshops for students interested in those positions. And evidently, they just had one, I think it was this month. It was extremely well attended, like dozens of kids from all over the state. And they're holding another one the first week of December. So it might be something we want to let the students here at this school know.
Just so the public knows, our lice policy is EBBA-7, and during COVID, it was a state of emergency, so that's why certain rules and laws and regulations were able to be overruled.
Is there anything that prohibits parents from being informed when there is an outbreak of lice in our policy? Can you
I
see
did
that?
not read it
You didn't
over
read
at
it?
this moment.
Okay, well, I'll
but,
check it out.
that would be
I'll
it.
check it out.
I just,
because-
it was questioned, so I referred to it, so that way we can.
Right, I do think we need to look into that. It's important.
Is there a way we can just have it come to the next board meeting so we can all see it?
Interesting.
Yeah,
Just
the
send it
lice,
to
the lice.
Can we just send it to the individual who asked for it?
I think it's worth a discussion.
We just adopted it in June.
Wasn't that long ago that we
Wasn't.
looked at it.
Yeah, we
I was
just
thinking,
did
I was
it in
thinking it was in the
June.
E's,
Yeah.
but, because we inform parents all the time in the world of early childhood. It's like one of our favorite things. But then we have parents in our buildings twice a day, every day. We see them all the time, so it's easier for us. I don't know. But I sympathize. It's not a fun thing to have to deal with continually. We'll talk about lice next month. Now itch the rest of the night.
No, don't do it, like it.
I know, the minute you say the word.
So just to clarify, do you want to bring that to next
Yes,
policy meeting? Okay.
yes, yes.
I mean, it could just be just to reread it, it doesn't mean that we have to.
For
first reading,
discussion,
second reading.
for discussion,
So there'll be another.
not a review of it, but just
Sandy
as
had
a
already-
discussion, yeah. And under other, we have policy IGDJA, athletic rules and regulations that we were asked to have a discussion about. A parent brought an issue before us because her daughter had recovered credits in the summer, and she was still denied the ability to play for sports this fall because of our rule. And I remember vaguely back in the mist of time that we had very long discussions about our policy, and that because of our 2-semester situation at the high school, it's an unfair practice to let kids recover credits in the summer and play in fall sports when the winter sports people don't have the same opportunity. And I didn't know if there was any interest in revisiting the issue and seeing if there was something. This parent will be coming next month because she was very interested in this, and she didn't see it on our agenda, didn't think it would be on tonight. So I just want people to be thinking about that. Apparently the NHIAA has lightened up their restrictions to credit recovery and playing in sports. So she wanted us to be more in line with their
So what do you suggest?
guidelines. I suggest we think about it and see if there's some way we can make it. Our policy allows for school building principals to make exceptions, but I think it says for kids with special needs or identified students. So it's not everybody.
I'm all for it. I think athletics keeps kids out of trouble. When they're busy, they're with activities, it keeps them from doing things after school that they shouldn't be doing. So if there's something that we can figure out to allow them to be able to play a sport to make something up, I'm all for it.
It's just that fairness piece.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but I also think that you have to, some kids will get really good academics in order to play the sports that they play, and as a parent of a child who went and played in that, like a sport in college, they look at your GPA. So my suggestion would be, we talk to maybe some admin at the, I'm assuming it's at the high school, and maybe
Yeah.
get some input from them as well, because I think I can see it both ways. We want them to be able to play sports, but
Yep.
you're in school for academic reasons, and that's also needs to be highly important, because if we lessen our qualifications, are we lessening our academic rigor? So that would be a concern.
Matt?
Karen, you put it on the calendar again, I agree with you.
Oh! Sorry, can you
Wow,
write that in the minutes, please?
Pick school again, huh?
it's on tape.
Not that I want to put you on the spot, I'm just saying for next month to think about it, do you know what I mean?
Do you want me to speak or not?
Do you want to?
Sure.
He's
Why not?
he's
That'd
prepared.
be-
Yeah, that's
Great, if you're prepared.
I mean, I can answer your.
I would
Yeah.
always let Mr. Roy speak whenever he wants to.
Yeah,
No, is that what you want me to do?
yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
Yes.
Do you want me to just answer questions? Because right now, the NHIAA, if you look at I think there's a handout, right? Do they have it?
There, I don't know that you've got the handout, you have the policy, correct? So we're referencing number 6.
So basically, the NHIAA says you have to pass 2 courses. We say you have to pass 3, in a nutshell, right? And so there were some Division I schools, and if Kevin were here, he'd be able to do this much better than me, by the way. So there were some Division I schools that go with the state recommendation. Most, we found, have a stricter policy like we do. The only way that I, as the building principal, am allowed to make exceptions is if I feel that a student with an IEP with special needs couldn't pass a class because of the disability. So it's really clear. I've only done this twice in 11 years, but so it has to be, because I'm not gonna, if these kids aren't going to class and they're not doing the work, I'm certainly not letting them play a sport. So like, that's sort of where we're at. The question, I think that, that's being raised is that, should we allow summer school? And it gives the fall athletes an extra chance. We do have E-Block built in, so that's another credit recovery. So summer school is credit recovery, basically, right? You relearn it and then you recover the credit. We have a credit recovery class at the high school, and then we also have an E-Block that happens after school that you can recover credits with certified teachers. So the opportunity is still there. However, like if a fall athlete has an NYC in a class, we're not gonna let them play until they recover the NYC. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if if you get the NYC in the spring, the fall sports haven't started yet, so therefore you're not missing any part of the season. The recovery chances are there, it's just the timing is different. You follow what I'm saying? So that's why we've never really allowed summer school, because it gives the spring athletes an advantage. So that's where we're at. That's where the policy is.
Just, Karen,
Thank you.
I would also think that, have you talked to Kevin Hebert? Because this really does affect athletics, and he's our athletic director, so I would think that we'd want to make sure he has
this
a right to weigh in.
This particular parent went to both Justin and Kevin
Yeah,
before coming to the board.
Right. Well, I mean, I have zero leeway. Like, this is the policy. I don't get to pick and choose what I follow. So like, it's, when parents come to me, it's pretty easy. It's like, nope, you don't qualify.
It
So,
sounds like they have an opportunity too. They just gotta either stay after school or go to E-Block, so they have that opportunity.
It
So if
just
they're
might
not
not,
if they're not taking advantage of that opportunity, then that's on them.
but they just might not have time to recover that for that sport, for that X sport. It is a time thing.
it's an issue of fairness.
how many classes are the normal, is it, so you have to fail 3, how many classes, 3 out of what?
No, you have to pass
You have
3
to
out
pass
of 4.
3.
So you have to pass 3 out of, so you can only fail 1.
Correct. That's the existing policy.
And what is that what matches the other schools, is you can only fail 1?
I mean, we're on a 4-block schedule, so it's hard to say, but the NHIAA requires 2, right? And so most schools have a stricter policy.
Do you think the policy should be changed? Like, I don't know, I don't wanna call you out on it, but like, what are your opinions on the policy?
You are calling him out on it.
I know, we don't have to, you know what I mean?
So I'll answer this, that's your decision, right? And so I'll follow the policy. I think that there are situations where kids have a really rough semester,
Yeah.
right? And so do you take what they love away? And so what I typically try to do is, if I know that certain kids are heading down that road, I start pulling them in my office, or we start going like, you will not be eligible, what can I do to help you? You wanna play football, what can I do to help you? You understand when we close grades in June, you're not gonna be eligible, what can I do to help you? So we do a lot of that.
Coaches do too.
Yep, the coaches do,
Coaches keep an eye on
teachers,
their kids.
Kevin, there's a lot of that, so.
I do think that there could be a circumstance where somebody was really, really sick and wasn't able to do their work, let's use COVID and then they fail because you know what I mean? Like, I think there should be something in place to say there was an extenuating circumstance.
It sounds like there is.
I don't know, it sounds like there's not.
Only if they're in special ed. Where I hesitate with that is that every person that comes to me has an extenuating circumstance that feels. So if you leave it up to me to decide, it's gonna
Not
be.
fair.
No.
Yeah,
That's really
it's-
not fair.
Yeah.
All right.
And they have to pass 3 classes.
Yeah.
Which is, that should be basic
Yeah.
if you can't pass 3 classes, you probably don't need to be in anything extracurricular. You need to pay attention to your academics.
Pass, you need to
I
graduate.
mean, that's what we're here for, is school. And I agree that some kids work harder when they are in sports. They do. They make sure their grades are up.
It's a motivator for sure.
It is definitely a motivator, but when you need to pay attention to your studies, you need to pay attention to your studies.
So can they appeal to the board, not Justin, but let's say this person was like, I want to play, do they have the right to appeal it to the board to be able to play? Or is it just like, or can they appeal it to the superintendent?
The NHIA.
they can appeal it to the NHIAA. But if we're stricter, why can't they appeal
They're
it
obviously
to us?
gonna get chosen. I mean,
Well, as Justin said, he adheres to the policy you set.
Yeah,
So if he follows your policy, right, they go to the NHIA to say that either he was unfair in administering the policy. Obviously, you could hear that too, but you can't overrule NHIA bylaws.
but we would be overruling our own policy if it's stricter, right?
You could change your policy, absolutely. That's within the purview of the board.
they can or can't go to NHI.
They can.
And if they go, and they overrule our policy, what's the point here?
I don't think they would overrule your policy. They have bylaws that they follow. And so they would look at the appeal through their bylaws, just as Ms. Stokes just said, you can change your policy. And if you change your policy, then the ruling would change, right?
I don't know, Shane's talking
So,
about, that's okay.
have we looked at like other districts' policies near us?
Kevin had a medical situation, he was gonna try to come tonight. He can come next month to answer that, he did a lot of research.
Yeah.
I think I don't even think I have it tonight, but we had a breakdown of like what schools have stricter policies, what those policies are. A lot of it depends on what they're running for schedule. Some schools run 7, so you have to pass 5, it's all,
Do you know if Kevin likes this policy, or is there things that he,
I mean, we've been doing it for as long as Kevin and I have been there.
It's a long time.
A long time, so it's just, the expectation's really clear, and I think it emphasizes academics, but I mean, we're obviously gonna follow whatever.
because honestly, I would like to, you guys know it better than we do. I would like to hear like some of the changes that maybe you guys would recommend. If you guys got together and then came back next month and give us recommendations on what you think, because you guys know better than us.
Matt, listen up, you ready? So we have a SALT team, right, student athlete
Yeah.
leadership team. I would like to see what some of the students think of the policy too, because this really does affect them. So I don't know if we could invite, maybe a couple of them would come from part of the discussion next month. You know what I mean? We talk all the time about our policies, what do our student athletes think? So would we be, do you know if you could find anybody that would be willing?
Oh, I can find a bunch, sure.
Yeah, so I think that would be, I mean, Kevin, of course, because I think he's our athletic director, but I'd like to see what some of the students think, because, do you not agree?
I didn't say that.
You do. Yeah, I would like to see some of
He's not
that.
gonna say it twice in the same.
I know, I was hoping.
I'd just like to say that this is,
This is Dave's turn.
this isn't a change, it's been this way for a long time. Nothing's changed, except for a student thinks, oh, well, maybe they'll make an exception for me, or, they know the rules. We're not here to change the rules for a little bit here, a little bit there. This isn't very strict, to be honest with you. I've had 2 kids through sports, extracurricular activities, they knew the rules. We're not here to make life a little bit easier, so you don't have to work as hard. I think the rules are in place, they're attainable. They've been attainable for how many hundreds of kids?
And I will admit, I didn't quite remember back to why we made the policy the way we did. And I was kind of pushing to see if we could not have handled this sooner because this child wanted to play soccer. And even the mom said, no, you don't have to rush. We just want you to look at it. We just want it to be, it's not just for Alex, it's for XYZ other students. So it was brought forward with a look to see if we could,
Right.
she was thinking in terms of the NHIA, that we should be in line with them, but I don't think we need to do that. Yeah,
I agree with going with higher standards. You know, we have 26 credits for a reason, and I think that student athletes, and you'll see with all the athletes, they adhere to these, and as Mr. Roy pointed out, they bring them in. I think just to clarify, when they go to NHIAA, I think their bylaws state they default to whatever our
School's
policy is. In their process, they're making sure that we ruled fairly.
right.
So that's why they might have minimum requirements, but whatever the district's policy is what rules.
Right. So I would like for us to bring Mr. Hebert next month, just to have the discussion, just so the public can,
Do you want SALT
Unders-
students?
and bring SALT students too, if they want, if they're free, if they have the time and can come, because we moved policy to late now. I don't want to infringe on anybody's study time or
Bedtime.
bedtime. I don't know.
They're in bed by 8 o'clock.
So does anyone else have anything to add that we will look at this next month? Not necessarily for action, but for more discussion?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Roy.
Is there anything else under other? Matt?
I'd like to make a motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
come on.
Second.
I thought he had another.
I know.
Matt always has another.
I'm not sucking at you.
All those in
Shane already did,
Oh,
so.
whatever.
All those in favor of
Aye.
adjourning?
Aye.